Hello, my name is Rocco Strangio, and I'm the host of the Law, AI, and Money podcast. I bring on attorneys, engineers, and entrepreneurs to unravel the world of AI and to discuss how it'll affect the legal profession. Today, I'm joined by Josh Nueman, an attorney at Motley Rice. Prior to joining Motley Rice, Josh was a partner at a large international firm representing clients in a variety of litigation areas, including pharmaceutical drugs and devices, consumer fraud, and harmful products. Joshua served as a senior member of the team representing claimants in the Injectafer Products Liability Litigation, as well as advancing litigation for claimants harmed by defective pressure cookers, EzriCare artificial tears, and UV gel manicures. At Motley Rice, Josh has represented claimants harmed by Paraquat and Roundup. Today, he's working on a new litigation involving claimants that have been harmed by Olympus Endoscopes. We hope you enjoy our conversation. Hey Josh, how you doing?
Good, Rocco. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on such short notice. I know you just came back from your flight from Charleston and just got home just a couple minutes ago. So thank you for coming on.
Of course.
I listened to one of your panel discussions at Harris Martin. What was it? It was Harris Martin Birmingham?
It's Milwaukee. I think it probably was Milwaukee. It was the
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
There's so many. And I get confused of all of them. And you were speaking on Olympus Endoscopes. I want to get to Olympus Endoscopes and your role in that and where that litigation is going. But before I do, probably best you give some background on yourself for all our viewers and just explain how you got here.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Josh Nueman. I'm a products liability mass tort attorney at Motley Rice. I've been at Motley for almost a year and a half now. And before I joined Motley Rice's new Philadelphia office, I was a partner at Pogus Goodhead, which is another mass tort products liability firm that's based in London, but we had a U.S. office in the Philadelphia area. So I've actually been in Philadelphia as a practicing attorney since I graduated law school, which is scary to think about. As I think I'm on my 11th year now, so it's flown by. It's been doing it for a while.
You went to Temple, right?
I went to Temple. Yep, Temple.
I
Law.
visited the campus. Beautiful campus.
Yeah, it's great. And actually, I'm an adjunct professor there too. I teach we developed the law school developed a new mass tort products liability course. The pilot course was this past semester, and so we're getting that program off the ground, which has been fun.
That is awesome. It's funny you say that because me and my partner here at Milestone,
Yeah.
we actually had the idea of starting something similar at the University at Buffalo, where both of us attended law school. So it's still a work in progress. It might be like a winter class, but we're trying to get it up and running. It's great that you do that at Temple. I think it's important to get the word out on mass torts because not a lot of people know about it. In law school, as you know, nobody talked about mass torts.
Yeah, that's totally true, Rocco. And the selling point for me with the university was when you look at the numbers, 60% of federal court filings are located in multi-district litigations. And I had no idea what a multi-district litigation was when I was in law school. I'm sure you probably didn't either.
Yeah.
And I think certain schools are behind the ball with teaching, law students, what mass tort and products liability cases really are. And so that, especially given how prevalent some of these cases are in New York and Buffalo and Philadelphia area, it's really important it helps students get jobs and brings good lawyers to this practice.
Yeah. So one of my initial questions is, you've represented individuals that have been affected by all sorts of wrongdoings, one of which involves toxic chemical torts. Two specific come to mind, Roundup and Paraquat. Can you kind of explain those litigations, your role in them, and how they impacted everybody? Because I think those two, everybody might not know it, but I think almost everybody has a connection to somebody that was affected by both of those products. I know people who were affected by Roundup specifically, and it's one of the most damaging litigations I think out there. So if you could kind of give a background on those two and just talk about
why it's so important for everybody to be aware of mass torts and the fight
Yeah,
in general.
yeah, it's a great question. So Roundup and Paraquat, they're both weed killers. They're both herbicides. They have different purposes. Roundup is more of a over the counter style product where you can walk in any store and buy it. Paraquat has more of an industrial use, as I say. These days, to go and purchase it, you typically would have a licensed applicator. So it's a registered use pesticide. So you have a license, you go purchase it. They're both very very widely used in the United States and across the world. They're very different in the issues with the chemical compounds of both products. In Roundup, it's a chemical compound called glyphosate. In Paraquat, it's actually Paraquat. It's gramoxone is the product. That's the Paraquat's and gramoxone is the brand name versus chemical. And the issue with Paraquat is we allege it causes Parkinson's disease. The issue with Roundup and glyphosate is NHL, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So they're similar in the sense that they're both toxic tort chemicals and they're both herbicides. They're different in really in the injuries and damages. A lot of our clients in the Paraquat litigation are farmers or people that worked on farms or lived close to farms. In Roundup, it's your neighbor could have went and bought Roundup and glyphosate and was injured that way.
It's so tough because they affect so many people, whether you're just in a field working in a farm or you just care about, let's say, landscaping. I know gardeners who took Roundup and then shortly thereafter developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it's crazy that it's still out there. It's almost like a lot of times the fight is about making change, and that's your role in all of this is to push these companies to change and get these products off the market. But a lot of times, one way or another, it's difficult to do so. I know in Europe they banned glyphosate products. I don't know where that's at right now in the United States. You might know better than me, but where do we stand on making these companies remediate?
Yeah, it's another great question. So, well, I'll start with Paraquat. It's a little bit easier. Paraquat is banned in most countries in the world. I think there's only 5 countries, including the United States, that even allow it to be sold. In March, the company that manufactures the products, Syngenta, they released a statement saying they're no longer going to manufacture Paraquat, and states have now begun to ban it. So Vermont issued a ban on Paraquat, and so there are states that are coming out, new legislation is getting passed because more science is coming out and developing that is confirming that Paraquat causes Parkinson's disease. There's a lot of, plaintiffs lawyers, we do a lot of great work. We can't take all the credit for this type of stuff. There's a lot of interest groups like the Michael J. Fox Foundation, Parkinson's Disease Foundation that really are at the forefront of this. And all of it is the goal to keep people healthy and protect people, because everyday consumers have no idea that if you go and spray a bottle of Paraquat, it may cause Parkinson's disease. And so that's really like from the advocacy front. We're advocating from a civil liability litigation standpoint. There's a lot of nonprofits and groups out there that are advocating from their angle, and that we both work hand in hand, and it really does a nice job of trying to protect people. And then for Roundup's a little bit different. I mean, they've changed the formulation, so glyphosate isn't it's not the same product necessarily that it was before.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you wouldn't have an injury from that, but the real difference between Paraquat and Roundup from like a 30,000-foot view level is Paraquat is that you can't take Paraquat out of Paraquat. Like that product, no matter what, is going to be toxic. Roundup is formulated differently. There's surfactants and other things that go into Roundup that can make it more or less dangerous, and so they're messing with the formulation a little bit. But every country around the world now is really looking at these things and trying to address it to help keep people healthy.
That's an amazing analysis. And part of the reason I brought it up, and that was not an easy question by any means, but like, it's unbelievable to me how unaware everybody, at least in the United States, at least, funny enough, it's the country most affected by all of these products, since we do have such loose regulations when it comes to putting out products for consumers. And if it weren't for you guys, I know there's all other action groups out there, like you mentioned, but I strongly believe if it wasn't for the plaintiff attorneys involved, none of these changes would be happening, at least in the United States. Our country doesn't really self-regulate in the same way that other countries around the world do. It kind of takes a big litigation, a news article, and a fat settlement, which almost acts as a large fine to these companies for them to then change their ways. And so I applaud you for your hand in that. We all know people affected by various cancers. Parkinson's, one of the most damaging diseases you can get, and so I feel like that's some of the best work you can do as an attorney. And that's awesome.
The hard part, I mean, really just the hard part about it is, I wish it were quicker. I wish it were a faster process, because we'll meet a client who was just diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. They used Paraquat well in the past. And by the way, just as an aside, Paraquat is one of those diseases where the latency period is so long. You may not develop Paraquat causing Parkinson's disease, the latency period is so long. So you may not develop Parkinson's disease or PD for 30 years until after you've used that product, because the chemicals will cross the blood-brain barrier and start killing off your dopaminergic neurons. And that's what then leads to Parkinson's disease. So, years and years and years and years down the road, you get diagnosed with, this horrible disease. And then the clients come to us. We begin representing them at the beginning of litigation. We see their decline, and it's really difficult. Towards the end of the case, we're getting close to a trial, and the client in many instances will succumb to the disease, and so that's really one of the hardest things to do in this field.
Yeah. There's so many struggles, not just for the fact that it's tough to litigate a case in general. When you're doing it against some of these huge companies, multinational companies like Bayer, whoever else may be involved, it makes it that much more difficult. But you guys do a great job of fighting whoever you're going up against. And obviously the changes have been made and you guys have won. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, what they don't know about, like, so Monsanto, obviously, enormous company, Bayer, enormous. For Paraquat, it's Chevron, one of the largest companies in the world, and then Syngenta, and Syngenta is actually owned by Sinochem, which is essentially a Chinese manufacturing company, and so and Paraquat is, by the way, banned in China. So you have a Chinese manufacturing company that is making this product, is shipping it, to the United States. American farmers are using it. And so these are the things that I think a lot of people don't realize when you start to get into the weeds, no pun intended, of these cases. Yeah. You're really just like, you learn a lot more about these multinational conglomerate corporations.
Yeah, and it also, when I first got involved in this world, we're obviously more on the settlement administration side. So my company is a trustee. We hold the money and we pay out all the claimants. But when I first got exposed to this world, the mass tort world, it made me think about the world so much more differently. I always envisioned, I'll live near like a farm. That's like the ideal, right? Or I'll live near a golf course. But both of those contain risks that you wouldn't otherwise know unless you're exposed to all of these, different litigations. And it goes well beyond just like the toxic tort stuff. It goes into products and everything else. And we'll get to some of the product stuff, but it really is crazy. How do you go about your day knowing about all these converging torts going on that people are litigating?
I mean, you certainly think about it, but I just, to be honest, I mean, there's this stuff is everywhere. I mean, Paraquat. So for golf courses, Paraquat's banned, cannot be used on golf courses in the United States. So that's a good thing.
Okay, great.
There was a 2025 study that came out last year about the increased incidence of Parkinson's disease on for people that live near golf courses. So that's
That's what I saw the similar report. Yeah.
yeah, and so like look, like in the end, you just try to really think about it step by step, and not like, of course, to the back of your mind that, hey, these are the same products that you and I and our families live near are causing these
Yeah.
injuries to people, but you got to stay focused and continue to represent your clients to the best of your ability. That's the legal and ethical obligation that we took when we became lawyers.
Yeah, it's awesome. Right now, you guys are taking on a new challenge. That's the Olympus Endoscopes litigation, which you talked a little bit about during the Harris Martin event in Milwaukee. If you could just explain what that litigation is about, how many people might be affected, and what are some of the injuries that you've seen so far?
Sure. So just like very high level, Olympus, many of the viewers will probably recognize the name. It's a film company. And Olympus, it decided, hey, let's go and make medical devices because, there's plenty of procedures that require cameras, specifically, an endoscopy, a colonoscopy, those types of procedures where surgeons and physicians are going in and inserting products into patients. They need to take pictures internally. So you have your classic, you have an endoscope camera attached. That's what the doctor is using during the procedure. Over the last couple of years, there have been several recalls on these Olympus products, and Olympus is a company from Japan. They have a U.S. Entity and subsidiary that's located here in Pennsylvania. That's really the U.S. headquarters, and they're kind of controlling all the operations. And so these devices have begun to be recalled for a variety of reasons. The primary reason is their inability to be sterilized or cleaned properly, and so these scopes are reused from patient to patient. And so if one patient has an infection and it's not properly sterilized, it can't be properly sterilized, that infection can then spread to another patient and another patient and another patient after that. And so it's very concerning. We started to get wind of this after all these recalls, and we were following it closely. And then it all came to a head last summer, when the FDA issued a blockade against certain products that Olympus made in Japan. So that Japanese entity could no longer ship those specific products into the United States. That's kind of like the high level where the litigation's at, and then as far as what Olympus is about, and as far as the types of injuries, it's all across the board. You have injuries where clients are just having an infection. They don't know what caused it. The infection can happen 72 hours, 24, 48, 72 hours after the procedure. And then after that infection, you have a whole variety of issues stemming from it, all the way up until there's been some recalls over the devices breaking, portions of the device breaking off inside people. There's been some reports of internal combustion, so the device is overheating while they're inside people. Both of those can be catastrophic injuries and lead to client even all the way up till death, of course. So we're looking at it. We're looking at every type of Olympus scope, both recalled and non-recalled. And we're connecting with clients. We've started to sign clients up and pursue this litigation.
Yeah, it's still early, as I imagine, and I don't know where consolidation efforts stand right now, whether or not it will be consolidated, but that's probably something you envision way down the road, right?
Yeah, I imagine there will be multiple different consolidations. I mean, these types of litigations, this is an enormous company. They have a huge market share. They have like 80, 85, 90% of the market share of these products. The only other company that really sells them is Fuji, another film company. And additionally, these are 510K devices, which means that they don't get preemption access like you would with a PMA, pre-market approval device. So these 510K devices have not gone through a rigorous FDA approval process like a PMA would. So all of the markers are there for this to be a pretty big litigation. And so I imagine down the road there will be multiple coordinations in multiple different jurisdictions.
Yeah. Well, we'll be keeping tabs on that, of course. as we talked about, how does how do litigating all these cases, how do you stay motivated when constantly dealing with different types of torts and different injuries? I can see how that might take its toll on somebody, working on toxic torts, then you're working on product defect cases, then you're working on whatever it might be. I know a lot of attorneys in the space also do SA. So how do you continuously keep yourself motivated? How do claimant testimonials and stories impact that? And what are some of the feel-good stories that you've encountered over your career so far?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that keeps me motivated is my clients. I've done enough of these types of cases now. I've been a part of hundreds of plaintiff depositions, my client depositions, produced clients for those depositions where they're sitting at the head of the table. There's a camera on them. I'm sitting directly next to them, listening to every single question that the defense lawyer is asking them, and protecting that person, because the hardest part is this person's already been injured. There's nothing you can do about that. You can't go back in time. But what you can do is try and seek justice for these people. And the way our civil justice system works is that's financially to put these people in a better place. Because again, the number one, I wish we could just make them totally healthy. That would be the ideal scenario. You just can't do that. You can't go back in time and fix that.
Right.
So money is what our system has developed in order to help these clients and people. And so I'm there to guide them in that. And the thing I always think about, and we talk in our office about, is we represent thousands, tens of thousands of people. All of those people, this individual lawsuit may be part of a mass tort. It may be coordinated with 1,000 or 10,000 other cases. That individual lawsuit is the most important thing to that individual person, and you have to remember that. And so when the bellwether process gets started, I'm flying all over the country, bringing people to their depositions and representing them. That's really what keeps me motivated, because I just know that this is I'm helping that person is the most important thing to that person. And it's frankly why I became a plaintiff's lawyer, because I was a defense lawyer at the very beginning of my career, and being able to help individual people as opposed to big corporations, it's just why I do what I do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know it can be difficult at times. I mean, that's the trade-off with mass torts is you have some firms that are representing hundreds, if not thousands, of claimants, and it can be challenging. But that's the process that we have currently for litigating all these cases and putting pressure on defense. It's a consolidated effort to come at the defense and really seek change, and I think you guys do a great job of really working with each and every single one of the claimants involved. Obviously not just treating them like a number, but treating them like they have the one and only case. And it's amazing some of the stories that I hear, and it's just an incredible avenue of recourse for the United States. And it's really unique to the United States as well. I don't know if the rest of the world really has a built-out system like we do. I mean, we need it more than probably the rest of the world, but it's just fascinating to me. And when I talk to people from other countries, they're fascinated by this whole process as well.
Yeah, certain jurisdictions are better than others. And look, Rocco, to be honest, I think every jurisdiction does need it. Like they're just further behind. And our country was founded on these principles 250 now years ago. So it's the systems that have been put in place by our forefathers. That's why our civil justice system is so solid today. There in other jurisdictions where you can't have your classic class action case, or frankly there's just damages caps across the board. Or there's just been total justice reform or tort reform, whatever it is. I hope other countries can really develop a system like we have, because it allows people the right and access to a civil jury trial and trial by their peers. You have 12 other people who are from your community just like you, who can listen to all the evidence, all the facts, and determine whether or not that corporation harmed you. That's, I think, one of the most poetic ways to seek justice, and it's important.
Yeah. I know there's efforts right now in Europe to sort of take these processes and bring them to the EU. One of the problems with the EU is that every country has its own rules on the law and civil recourse, whether or not attorneys are able to take contingency fees, or whether a law firm can even bring an action like this, whether you need to have a special organization like a nonprofit bring these actions. There's all these different rules that they're trying to sort out, but they understand that they also need an avenue like this, because unfortunately the same thing is starting to happen in Europe as well, where companies start to prioritize profits and put people at harm's way. So the last question I have, Josh, before we wrap up, is where do you think the future of mass torts looks like? Because as I see it, we are straying more towards what I see as technology torts. Torts involving cyberspaces, whether it's video games and things like Roblox, or whether it's online chatbots, for example, and AI, or online gambling, things having to do with the digital space. Where do you see the future of mass torts going?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely trending that way. I will say the medical device and pharmaceutical litigation is never going away. People will always need, drugs, pharmaceutical drugs and medical devices to help them, and companies are always going to end up cutting corners inevitably. Listen, if I'm put out of a job because every pharmaceutical company in the world decides they are going to take every single precaution and make these as safe and effective as possible, I'd be perfectly happy going and doing something else. I just don't expect that to happen anytime soon. So I do think those types of cases will always be around. But I also think you're right. I mean, the technology age is upon us, and when you have a new frontier, it's very similar to who my colleagues at Motley Rice, how they developed the tobacco litigation, the opioid litigation. Those were the new frontier back then, and I think technology is probably the new frontier now.
Yeah. I know there's some theories now on against companies like Kalshi, against online chatbots like ChatGPT, and it goes on and on and on. But Josh, I just want to thank you for your time. I thought this was great, and myself, but everybody listening in, values your expertise and perspective on mass torts and law in general. And so thank you for coming on, and it was a pleasure as always.
I appreciate it, Rocco. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Law, AI, and Money podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation, be sure to like and subscribe so we can keep the conversation going. Thank you.